Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined so far this week by Chad Big Bad Johnson. Bit of a different format this week. A bunch of the guys were at AEW Grand Slam on Wednesday. So Chad and I are going to cover a couple of news items, and then some of the other guys will join later in the show. And I'm not sure what they're going to cover. I think hopefully they'll cover their experiences at Grand Slam, perhaps a couple of other things too. But let us start this week, for us at least, with the news that WWE will be adding 2 WarGames matches to Survivor Series. Obviously, Triple H is now taken over as the head of creative. And Chad, as we know from our NXT days, he fucking loves WarGames matches. We've had a bunch of great ones on the men's and the women's side of things down in NXT. He has stated originally it was an article with The Ringer that these matches will probably be a little more storyline based than based on the brand supremacy that we've had in the past. So Chad, I think you're just as excited as I am to get some main roster war games going. And I wasn't excited about Survivor Series, but as the Triple H train has been rolling down the tracks, I've been getting more and more reinterested in WWE. And to quote Leonardo DiCaprio, you had my curiosity, but gentlemen, now you have my attention.
Man, I agree. As an NXT fan, I love a good War Games. And I must say, I have to point out that for a pay-per-view that has been very, I say lesser the last few years, and also as a pay-per-view who usually only as of late has been very titleless. Like, they haven't been doing the titles for a while on Survivor Series, I don't think, if I'm correct.
From what I remember, the last few years, it's usually been title versus title, not for title holder versus title holder. Right. There haven't been any title matches on the show. And I don't think anybody's cashing the Money in the Bank there, just to add that to that point as well. But I will agree that, of the big four, this has definitely felt the last, felt like it's been in the last place out of those, to the point where almost Money in the Bank has almost surpassed it. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been almost the redhead stepchild for the last, I don't know how many years, because everyone knows
the hornswoggle of the big four.
Yeah, absolutely, the hornswoggle. Everyone knows my time is fucked up here. But yeah, so I think adding these War Games matches is going to absolutely make the pay-per-view pop now. I think it's going to be a great experience. Hey, I was a fan of bragging rights when it was a pay-per-view. So, I'm not complaining. I just felt like if they did something interesting, the pay-per-view would be fine. And now we have something interesting. So I really can't complain. I'm excited.
Yeah, there were some good Survivor Series matches in the last however many years, and there were some really exciting ones. You can go all the way back to, let's say, Team Cena versus The Authority was a pretty solid one, and that was a little while ago comparatively. When NXT came up and they were inserted into the matches, that led to a lot of cool dynamics, and NXT did very well that year. I think there was the year Raw pretty much swept SmackDown.
Absolutely.
Except the New Day. Let's not forget that. The New Day did win. And while there were good matches there, like, it just didn't hit right.
Mm-hmm.
It felt weird. And I'm trying to think. There was the one match. It was still Raw versus SmackDown. Like, Triple H inserted himself into it. And I think that was a big turning point, because I feel a lot of people were really excited about that match. And it fell. It might have been the same year when Raw pretty much swept. I'd have to double check that. But it fell flat. Like, everything that happened, all the really cool face-offs that we were looking forward to. Like, I think Triple H and Bobby Roode was one I was really excited about, because they were similar wrestlers. They both had really nice spine busters.
Yeah, they do.
And just that whole thing fell flat. And ever since then, I feel like it's kind of been going downhill repeatedly. I'm trying to think. Another good one was the original Team Raw versus Team SmackDown.
Yeah,
that
when they
started the
first
man.
started it, when they first started it, that shit was
Started it
fire.
again. Yeah, started it again because that was the man. That was the emergence of Becky Lynch, and that was the build up to that when Nia Jax busted her face in, and that really turned a corner there for Becky. So that gave it a shot in the arm, and then obviously we've waned a bit. So perhaps now WarGames will give it another shot in the arm and bring it back and make it more exciting.
Absolutely. I'll go as far as to say the WarGames pay-per-views for NXT have been much better than any Survivor Series I've seen in the last probably decade. The WarGames are like fucking exciting. I can name my favorite WarGames match. I can name, what I'm saying? Like that, it's much better than Survivor Series has been for a while. And like I said, I get the whole concept behind Survivor Series, but I think this adds a new layer to it, and it makes it a much more exciting pay-per-view. It makes me want to actually watch it now.
Yeah. Plus, now we're using storylines again, at least for these war game matches, and it's not brand supremacy. We're going to kind of lose the whole, because this is where I think this brand supremacy thing really died. Oh, I just joined this roster, and now I'm going to go kick the shit out of the other one. Yep. Because there was a couple of years running there where they did the draft right before Survivor Series, and a bunch of people who really didn't have any brand loyalty were fighting for a brand they just got drafted to, and it just felt so like pointless. Not, it didn't have any gravitas to it. Right. Where if you had it for a year after the draft, all these people were on this brand and they loved it and they were fighting for it. That makes sense. That's why the first one where they brought it back, that where I was just talking about with Becky Lynch and everything, that's why that one, it had a lot of gravitas to it, because the people over at SmackDown Live loved SmackDown Live. That was that golden age of SmackDown with Moxley, or Ambrose at the time, and AJ Styles, the face that runs the place. Shane and Daniel Bryan were running it. Fucking James Ellsworth got over the Headbangers. Like, that was a golden era of SmackDown Live right as it started. And people on that roster loved it. Yeah. And, at least in kayfabe. And them wanting to fight for that, fight for that brand made a lot of sense. Then they started having the draft like 2 weeks before, and it just completely took the air out of it. So I think going back to more storyline driven matches, at least for the war game stuff, we'll see what they end up doing. But so far, Triple H has done a very good job in NXT of being able to mesh a couple of storylines together, and make a good and compelling matchup for the war games match itself.
Agreed. I think if we're being honest here, I know a lot of people will disagree, but I know it's going to take time, but just the layout of everything Triple H has been doing the last month alone, the last 30 days, has proven to be much more interesting than almost anything WWE has done in the last year, which, of course, we've had
not a high bar to clear, but
not the whole, like the entire year. I don't want to hype it up, but I'm just saying the subtle changes and debuts or re-debuts or reintroductions and everything that's been going on lately. Triple H is really, really getting the product out the mud, and it's starting to shine a little bit, and it's starting to look a little better. So I'm gonna go ahead and trust him. Fuck it.
Yeah, I do kind of hope they keep some of the champ versus champ matches, because
I like those.
Yeah, those are really cool, and I really, really want to see Gunther versus Bobby Lashley, as long as they hold those titles.
Shit. So James would orgasm as soon as they both came out.
So hopefully they keep at least some of those matches. Obviously, I think at the moment, a few of them can't happen. The Usos can't fight themselves.
All right.
And Roman's holding 2 titles as well. So that kind of throws that in the mud. But you can do the women's titles if you want, against each other. You can do the IC versus the US, which is what I really want. But or heck, if it ends up being, Gunther and Imperium and somebody else versus Sheamus, his boys, and somebody else, that could be a decent match too. I just want to, put Bobby Lashley in that match and just, give me some hard hitting shit. But
I could do with a Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker, perhaps.
That it could all. You could also end
enough.
up with the Bloodline in the match against Kevin Owens and whomever else.
Yeah.
So that I think that actually might end up where they end up going with that one, because they've been building this KO thing a bit slowly. Sami Zayn might get caught in the middle here. You just brought up Solo, so I think that's how you pronounce his name. Yep. So he's there. You got your 4 members plus Sami. And then if whatever you end up, Kevin Owens, whoever his allies end up being, I think that could be a very compelling matchup on the men's side. I have no idea what they're going to do on the women's side. That's a question for Danny. But as I said, he is not here at the moment. So
I guess they do Liv versus Bianca.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
They could throw in a little Mandy Rose triple threat. If
they bring it up NXT, we'll see.
Yeah, Triple H really wants to just balls to the wall, tear this shit up. He would just bring all the NXT champions up. And, I mean, the champions that they have now are pretty good, so that would be dope.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, we'll see what he ends up doing. I don't know if he wants to bring NXT up just yet. Seems like he's kind of trying to reestablish the brand. Obviously, there's the color change that happened the other week where it's more of a white, black, and gold instead of the colorful.
Yep. They changed the logo and everything. I actually watched it.
Yeah. So we'll see what he ends up wanting to do there. But obviously, this isn't until November. It's still September. He's got a lot of time to figure out and play with it. I am curious, and this is going to be used as a transition to see if Karrion Kross ends up being one of the members of the theorized Kevin Owens team, because it seems like he's got his beef with Roman too. So you didn't even throw Drew in there, just everybody who keeps getting beat by the Samoans or who wants to beat them. So it could be interesting. All right, let's move on to one other topic here before we head off to the other guys. There has been some stuff going on Raw. That is the best way to put it. It involves a rabbit. Yeah, it's a weird transition to make, but there has been a tease of a wrestler that has been is coming up that involves a white rabbit. Apparently during live shows of Raw, and I'm not sure if this has happened on SmackDown as well, they have been playing music, and God help me, I don't know the name of the song.
The White Rabbit.
It is called The White
Jefferson
Rabbit.
Airplane.
Okay, it is The White Rabbit by Jefferson. Yep. I knew it was Jefferson Airplane. I love that song.
Me too.
They've been pretty much, I think they've just been playing the acapella of it, but it's been really cool. They've been playing it during commercials. And I do believe during the last Raw on Monday, whenever this comes out, I don't know when that was. So about, was this, God, I can't do that. The 17th-ish, let's guesstimate.
Yeah.
Sure, dates, hard. Anyway, there was a bit of a package and there was a QR code, and apparently that led to a link, and the link led to a little video of a rabbit, white one, playing Hangman, and it's the question was oh God, what was it? Do you remember what the question was, Chad? I'm not doing very well at this segment.
I do not. I remember it was
who killed something, and then the answer was you did.
Yes, that's what I remember the answer.
Yeah. And I can also say that the rabbit itself, as I stall for time here, this is going real well, guys. As I stall for time here, that the rabbit, as he bounced over the letters and guessed, he did actually try to spell out demon first, and it didn't end up working, and he was able to solve the puzzle right before he ran out of Hangman pieces. I don't know what they're called, body parts, whatever. Yeah, I am falling apart here, and it is not even that late. Look, the point is, everyone thinks this is Bray Wyatt, and there was a date. It appeared at the end of the little video, and it said 9/23, which, depending on when this comes out, is either today or yesterday or a couple of days ago. But it was teasing Friday Night SmackDown on the 23rd. So, Chad, like I said, a lot of people think this is Bray Wyatt. There is the low-key underhanded chance that this is a bit of a repackage for Karrion Kross, as he was known as the White Rabbit in Lucha Underground for a short period of time. So which side you leaning towards? What do you think of the rollout here? And if it is indeed Bray, are you excited to see him back in WWE?
So, I mean, everybody keeps saying Bray Wyatt, and I know that's what Eric wants, but I did my own little research, and when I did that, I came up with everything you said regarding Karrion Kross being the White Rabbit in Lucha Underground. I saw that he had like a stable and a whole bunch of shit. Like this was just a thing that he did. So I don't know if anybody else has been watching SmackDown lately, but he's been doing very minimal, creepy shit that makes me think this is the White Rabbit. I obviously thought it was a fucking Alice in Wonderland reference where the White Rabbit carries a clock and he says, I'm late, I'm late. Karrion Kross has been known to say fucking TikTok for the last 2 years that he's been working. He randomly sent Sami Zayn, he sent Roman Reigns some decaying flowers that were black, and then the card attached said TikTok. So everything screams Karrion to me. I mean, I want it to be Bray because I love Bray as much as anybody else, and I would love to see him back. But everything is still screaming Karrion. Now, I don't know if it's a repackage or if he's just trying to get in Roman's mind still or just toying with Drew, because then why do all this shit on Monday? But I also think this may actually be nothing and they're just trolling the shit out of us because we took it amongst ourselves to just say Bray Wyatt's back. Then I also saw a random post that Bray Wyatt is coming back and he's building this like super stable with him and Dexter Lumis and Karrion Kross and Scarlett, and they're going to be the new Wyatt family, and Karrion Kross is the White Rabbit. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that too. I think that was just somebody, kind of fantasy booking. I did look it up. It was Who Killed the World. You did, which I guess, that plays into the Bray Wyatt. Yeah, the Bray Wyatt, he's got the whole world in his hands stuff too. So I think that's another point for Wyatt. I do see though, and I'm intrigued by the fact that it could be some combination of Wyatt and Kross. I know you just mentioned the Lumis thing, and I think that whole thing is fantasy booking, but the two of them together could be very interesting, considering that, like, as we mentioned, Kross was the White Rabbit, and the TikTok could be construed as it hasn't really been the harbinger of, Kross, but rather the harbinger of Wyatt. So perhaps that's the case. I don't know. There's just a lot of rampant speculation. I think this screams Bray Wyatt, though.
It does really scream. I mean, it's like, it's borderline gruesome. It's creepy. It's super mystery. It does scream Bray Wyatt. But again, they just have so many components who could not fill Bray Wyatt's shoes, but they have so many things they can do to lead to Bray Wyatt without Bray Wyatt actually being there. So I don't know. But yeah, I hope it's Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, it just the creativity of everything and the subtle hints and even what he's been doing on Twitter. Like, it's just so much evidence there to lead me to believe it's Wyatt. And I'm a little less nervous now about him going back to WWE now that Triple H is in charge, because I didn't want to see him there with Vince, because I feel like every time he creates an awesome character and Vince, not that he doesn't get it, but he doesn't know what to do with it and probably refuses to take input to some extent, if at all,
to the highest extent.
Yeah. So whether or not I don't know. He probably didn't take any. Maybe he took some for a little while because, at the beginning with The Fiend, like, Bray seemed to be booked smartly. And then, he there was a stoppage in a Hell in a Cell match and he went for the title and lost to Goldberg. Like, at some
Bruno.
Yeah. At some point, obviously, whoever was making decisions there lost the plot. Yeah. And I don't think Triple H is going to let that happen, because I think he would work hand in hand with Bray, because he knows Bray not only understands the business very well, but he knows when Bray comes in with the character like this, he has so many ideas and where he wants to take it and how he wants to take it, that I think they'll end up working hand in hand, and Triple H will allow Bray's creativity to shine.
Absolutely. I have 100% confidence in Triple H as the head of a character. I think he is possibly one of the smartest guys in character working. He's rejuvenated himself 1,000 times to where he's never been boring. I mean, of course, I think he should have retired earlier, but
Reign of Terror, but
I mean,
I get it. Like,
yeah,
wanting to be on top, and he's made some
when
bad decisions, but yeah, he's always at least been interesting, whether it was in a good or a bad way.
Absolutely, he's always been interesting. That's where it comes from. I think he's so character driven, and he's molded himself and remodeled himself so many times that I would absolutely trust a Bray Wyatt in Hunter's hands as opposed to Vince. I think Vince liked the gimmick, and he liked the new Undertaker feel, and then, out of nowhere, once they backed themselves into a corner, he just became less shiny, and he just threw him away. Where I think Triple H sees the mainstay that this character can be, because he is so innovative and creative that you need something like that. And like I said, not to compare and contrast, but what he's been doing slowly but surely with Dexter Lumis just proves that he can really build a character for long-term booking.
Yeah. And I think he is much more willing to take character input from everybody. People know their characters. Now, I understand a lot of times in WWE, NXT especially, they're given characters, especially if they're new and fresh and perhaps they've never wrestled before. But people who have established something or come in with a really good idea and know what they want to do, Triple H, and I think Shawn down in NXT as well, Shawn Michaels, I think they're a lot more amenable to taking input from these people and being like, oh, this is what you want to do. Okay, we can work with this. Let's figure out how we can, make it where it'll both work for us on WWE television and it'll work for you in terms of building your character. So there will definitely be traits that from every wrestler, I think, that they have input themselves, as opposed to Vince just being like, no, damn it, you're going to do this. So
your impression was too spot on, yo.
Thank you. It's a very limited fake. It's not as good as my Laurinaitis or my Daddy Magic, but it's not bad. Damn it.
You know what I secretly hope? You know what I secretly hope, and it's probably not going to happen. We can also shoot to this topic if you would like. I really, really, really hope, and I know it's not going to happen, it's fantasy booking. How fucking amazing would this be if they teased us and Adam Copeland us for a couple more months, and this package was for fucking Aleister Black? How fucking mind-blowing would it? I mean, I know we all have our doubts with him in WWE, but like I said, Vince is gone, Triple H is here. It would fucking work. And that's all I'm saying about that.
From what I understand about Aleister's recent statement, or Malachi's recent statement, he seems to be taking time off in general. Not just, no one's really sure why. If you didn't see his statement, he put something on Instagram a few days ago, and he was pretty upset about all the AEW leaks, excuse me. But he pretty much seemed to say, like, look, I got some back problems. I've had a bit of a rough go. I'm okay. Rough go personal life wise. He's like, I'm okay. My marriage is fine. I'm fine. I just need to take some time to get my, just to make sure I stay that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know if and when Aleister/Malachi will be back in a wrestling ring in general. And quite frankly, I think that's the point of what he said. Absolutely. And I think, quite frankly, at this point, out of respect for him, it's kind of a topic perhaps we should leave alone. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to talk about the news as it comes here on the pod, but, like, the guy is entitled to a personal life. And if he wants us to fuck off, perhaps we should all fuck off.
I absolutely agree. When you said it in the chat the other day, I totally agree with you. I only really brought it up because, of course, it's current news. But yeah, I agree. Let the man decompress. Again, life and wrestling has literally fucked him this last year. And, he's got some shit going on and he's working through it. And I just hope he's mentally fit and healthy to the best of his ability. And it would just be cool for me as a fanboy. But again, definitely leave him alone and let him get his shit together.
Yeah. Hey, and if shit goes that way, cool. If not, then whatever happens. And like you said, as long as he's good, then I'm good.
Right.
All right. I think that about wraps things up here for this segment. I quite frankly have no idea what's coming. We're going to record some stuff tomorrow, so I don't know who's going to be here. I don't know who I'm throwing to. But so at least for this segment, thank you, Chad Big Bad Johnson. My name is Nick Cummings. Take it away, boys.
The next day.
Hey, everyone. We're back. I'm back. But this time I am joined by James Gisante, and we're going to go over real quick about his experience at AEW Grand Slam this past Wednesday. Obviously, it was Grand Slam and Rampage. And James, I want to start with addressing some of the things that we didn't like from last year. Obviously, The wrestling was really good, but when we did our review of our experience from last year, it was me, Danny. You threw in a contribution before you flew back to Florida, I believe it was. But we all seem to have problems with the concessions, the lines. There seem to be a lot of problems there. And obviously, I'm starting with a negative so we can go to the positives later. But did they end up fixing some of those things? Were more concessions open? Were the lines shorter? And were you able to get food, beer, and merch a bit quicker?
This felt like night and day compared to last year. This year, none of the lines were that long. It was never that crowded. Now, admittedly, AEW Grand Slam last year was an absolute sellout. There wasn't a seat available last year. There were some empty seats this year. Not many, but, there were sections that were open. So we weren't dealing with as big a crowd as we did last year. But either way, a lot more mobility. I was able to buy my shirts before the show started. I was able to go to the bathroom a couple times throughout the show and not miss anything, really. I think I missed, in total, 4 minutes of a match the entire night. Concessions were great.
Man, you got a strong bladder.
For wrestling, I hold it, Nick. Concessions were great. No real issues there. The only thing about this that I could say is a genuine negative, the arena, Arthur Ashe, is beautiful. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous arena. Getting to the arena physically is awful.
Yeah, because you guys drove, correct?
Exactly. If you're driving in, the parking lots are so far away. It took me and my family 20 minutes to walk from the parking lot to the arena. It's tough, especially because it's so close to Citi Field. You want to just cut through, but because they were running an event or preparing for an event, we couldn't cut through the parking lots. It was a rough experience getting there. It was rough walking back, especially late at night after 6 hours of wrestling. It was tough, but that is the one negative in an otherwise excellent experience. The arena stadium. What am I saying?
It's Arthur Ashe Arena. It's more of an arena because it's a tennis. Yeah, it's more of an arena, I guess. Tennis is weird. Usually arenas are closed, and this has a retractable roof. So I assume the roof was closed last night.
Yes, it was closed. People were still cold up top, but it was closed.
Yeah, but it keeps the sound in because you guys were rocking. At least it sounded like on TV. I can only imagine how loud it was there.
I think we could have been on the moon and you guys would have heard us with how loud we were. It was a raucous crowd that was excited to be a part of the second Grand Slam.
Yeah. Now, I can attest because for those of you who watch the channel know I'm a big Met fan. I go to that area all the time. Obviously, City, like you said, being right there. I take the train. in my life taken the 7 out or LIRR, which both pretty much get off right in between the two. And I can attest the parking there is not great. You can, at least for the Mets, park in and around the parking lots there. But if they're not letting you park there, and especially if they're not letting you cut across, I can only imagine where you guys had to park, because sometimes you have to park, at least for the Mets, by the water over by the marina, which is far enough away from city. It's even further away from Arthur Ashe and that entire complex. And I don't even know where the other parking lots are. Like, I guess you guys were beyond left field and city field, which for those of you who haven't been there is a good mile at least. Like, it's a hike.
We got lucky that we were able to park in sanitation parking due to my dad, but it's still quite a walk. I wouldn't recommend it. If you can take the train, it'll get you a lot closer. It was tough, but again, the one negative in an otherwise great experience.
Yeah, I think just that entire area has a bit of trouble with parking, even for Met games, and leaving too, because obviously getting in and out of Queens in general is a bitch. So and getting onto Grand Central Highway there, or whatever you're going to end up taking, is impossible. I know. I took my uncle to a game a couple of weeks ago, and he said it took him 2.5 hours to get home, and an hour and a half of that was just getting out of Queens. So and that was upstate New York. So. At least that was the one negative, because I think for me, the one reason I didn't want to go this year was to see if they straightened out those concession lines, because it didn't take away from the experience, but it definitely was a bit of a sour note on an otherwise great night. Did they have the outside stuff open, or they just open everything inside?
So they had some of the outside stuff open.
Okay, see, that I think was what I was saying last year would have alleviated a lot of the pressure.
The majority of them were closed, but I noticed one or two that were open. There was a concession stand that was open outside too that alleviated a lot of the stress. There was a couple of the grills open outside that alleviated a lot of the pressure. But overall, it wasn't that different from last year.
Interesting. Perhaps the crowd was just a bit smaller, or perhaps maybe they just ended up opening everything within the stadium. I was hearing last year that not everything was open there, and that's what created the lines wrapping around the entire concourse, which is narrow, I might add. So
yes, big time.
I'm glad that was, at least that was fixed, because I'll be taking the train. No offense.
I do not blame you.
And apparently the 7 was actually running as opposed to last year too. So at least that was working as well. I can only imagine. We did mention the crowd a second ago. Like I said, it sounded awesome. I would love for you to pick out a couple of the big moments of the night, and this will be coming out after Rampage, so you can spoil if anything really cool happened there. Some of the biggest pops, I know you were saying Saraya got a huge one.
Saraya's pop was deafening. We were all shocked. There had been rumors, there had been some leaks that she might show up, but
SRS was tweeting gifts to her the entire fucking day.
I don't know what his problem was. But
he was really chippy about it too. Sorry to interrupt you. Like,
no, it's true.
Like, we know you're the insider, but come on, man. Like,
don't ruin a surprise.
Keep your mouth shut on that one. It makes it a lot cooler.
But overall, it was excellent seeing her back. The crowd could not have been more welcoming to her. She felt like a star. I know that it seems that she's immediately entering probably the women's title picture. At the very least, she's probably going to go after Britt Baker. But
Dr. Britt Baker.
Man, if there's anybody that could take the title off Jade, just let it be Paige or Saraya.
Yeah,
Saraya.
It's okay. Chad did the same thing the other night.
Saraya here, but very excited to see her. The crowd, I hate them for it. Could not have been more behind MJF.
Queens is right next to Long Island, man. It's his home city.
I don't fucking care. He pushed Tony Schiavone.
Yep.
He's a monster. I hate him, and how dare he?
I said it during our live recap that you texted us in all caps. If he comes back out, I'm gonna fucking kill him.
Well, I don't want to be incriminated for anything, so I don't know what text you're talking about. But MJF was wildly over. The crowd was super into the main event of Bryan versus Moxley. Although, admittedly, as much as people were happy Moxley won, there were some boos that I don't know if they made it on the TV. A lot of people were disappointed Bryan didn't get the win.
Honestly, they got off of TV so fast, it was hard to truly gauge the crowd's reaction. They ran out of time, to quote an old school Shivani. So they cut pretty quickly, pretty much right as Regal got in the ring and Bryan and Mox were staring each other down before they ended up shaking hands and stuff.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Nick, because it seems that someone from Market Down was able to put up a video of what happened after TBS cut the feed and what happened after Dynamite ended. So I don't know where that could be. Maybe there's a link we could put up somewhere. But
at minimum, you can check the channel. It'll be in our most views because it's doing numbies, to quote somebody. But yeah, no, that was one of those times I didn't understand why Tony didn't be like, hey, we might go a couple of minutes over here. Can we get the time?
And even if you can't,
it's your biggest non-pay-per-view show.
And if you can't go over, which that happens, if you can't go over, you can't go over.
No, you
time it better.
Yeah,
time it better. Like, come on. But great crowd. There was a match on Rampage between Jungle Boy and Rey Fenix that was so brutal, so hard hitting. I am shocked at how this match came about and went about. And Jungle
brutal
Boy,
and hard hitting do not sound like Jungle Boy and Rey Fenix. That sounds. I would expect more of like not a high flying, but more of like a finesse match. Brutal hard hitting. I'm excited.
There was some high flying. I don't want to take it away from them. They are who they are. This was a slugfest.
Cool.
I highly recommend going to check out this match. Jungle Boy growing into a jungle man right before our eyes. Epic match, epic time, and the crowd ate it up.
Not to get too into the weeds, I do think that is Jungle Boy's kind of arc right now, where he is becoming more of a violent person. So I guess this type of match does lend itself, to that fact.
Absolutely.
I guess one more question before we get out of here. I was kind of hearing that some people maybe started leaving towards the end, or at minimum, people were getting gassed towards the end of Rampage, because another friend of mine who was at the show remarked that for the Ricky Starks Powerhouse Hobbs, I think it was a lights out match, just people didn't really have the energy anymore, which is unfortunate for what I think is one of the better feuds on the roster right now. And I think a feud that would have benefited from a very hot crowd.
I completely agree. Their placement was a disservice to both men and this feud. I understand because it's a lights out match. It's customary. It's the last match. I understand that, but there is no way the crowd was going to be able to give them what they deserved, because I tried, but I was exhausted. And
it would have gone at 11:30 after the whole show started at 7.
We left, like, it ended around 12:30.
Okay, so it probably went on at like midnight, maybe even earlier.
Yeah, it was exhausting. Good match between the two. I will say, not of all the lights out matches, it was probably the lightest. It wasn't as brutal as some of the other lights out matches we've had. Like
Ricky's
Kenny.
neck.
Yeah. No, and I get it. It had some nice moments, but unfortunate placement for these two guys. But truly, the crowd was mostly dead by the time we got to the Golden Ticket Battle Royal, which preceded it. Again, fun match. The crowd had sort of like, everyone sort of knew what the finish was going to be based off how it started, but people were just exhausted. People were exhausted. But I will say, the retention of people who stayed a lot higher than I would have guessed. People stayed a lot longer than I would have I would have ever bet.
See, Danny, you should have stayed. But I feel like that was similar to last year as well, where I think we also, if not a lights out match, there was some sort of, Extreme Rules match with, I think it was Mox and Eddie Kingston against
Suzuki-gun, I believe.
Yes, it was Suzuki-gun. It was Archer and Suzuki himself. And then Homicide showed up, and I think everyone used the last ounce of effort they had to cheer Homicide. But And same thing. That match was awesome. There was a lot of violence. We all popped for Suzuki, but after that, it was just we were shot, and it's unfortunate. Like, I understand why you want to put on such a good match to close the show, but as we've seen from WrestleManias, 7 hours of wrestling is exhausting. Hell, I do 7 hours of commercial-free football every Sunday, and by the end of it, I don't want to watch Sunday night. So I can only imagine how live 7 hours of wrestling can be. Actually, I can imagine. I've done it. It's even more tiring. So overall, out of 10, I guess, what would you rate your experience? I guess compared to last year's and just in general.
It's interesting because overall, out of 10, I'd give it like a 9.5. It was a great show, great atmosphere, great crowd, great matches, much better arena experience. I'd say the thing that sort of puts it under for me, other than the commute,
Brian lost.
Not even so much that Brian lost, although yes, that broke my heart. Last year had what will be one of my fondest wrestling memories ever. Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson was an iconic match, an iconic moment. And
we almost missed it because we were online for beer.
I don't put main events on first. That's all I'm going to say. But we had the better single match last year, but the card as a whole was better this year. Yeah. But despite as a whole being better, like the Acclaimed winning was unbelievable. I'm sorry I didn't mention it before.
Yeah, I was going to say, I almost forgot the Acclaimed. You got to talk about how the crowd was.
They have arrived. The amount of Scissor Me Daddy shirts were... I'm so happy for these two guys. The crowd gave them everything they could, and the Acclaimed and Keith and Swerve gave us everything.
And Daddy Ass.
Daddy Ass did too. It was an excellent match, an excellent night.
When was the last time you heard that big of a pop for a famouser?
Oh my God. God bless Billy Gunn for dropping his ass on the floor, on the outside. That was epic. Man, it was a great memory. I'm so glad that I went. I actually have one other thing I got to show.
Go ahead.
One other thing I got to show. You got to give me 1 second. I'm gonna stop the video for a second.
Oh, hang on. James going on a field trip, which means I guess I got to fill. All right. So you know what I'm going to do then while I'm filling? I would like to thank everybody for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Because of that aforementioned video of the post-match between Moxley and Bryan, we're up to now like 306 subscribers as of this showing, which is unbelievable. So for all of you new people who have joined us, thank you so much. We hope to see you around all of our lives and our other things. James and I just finished taping a Gym Pack Zone, which we do on Thursdays, live on Dynamite for after Dynamite on Wednesdays, and then we have our Raw Fast Forwards on Mondays. James is back with Show and Tell. Go ahead, James.
I got my first ever AEW chair.
Yeah. Way to go, Papa G.
Oh, it was him. The man worked his magic.
Wait, turn it upside down so we can read it.
There you go.
There we go. That looks awesome. The man, James's father, has a massive collection of pay-per-view chairs from wrestling, and it is quite the collection. I have seen that man wheel and deal so many chairs in my life. It is unbelievable. He is a savant at getting them.
He is.
James, any last words before we log out here?
I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel in the last day, 2 days, honestly, since Grand Slam. It means so much to us. We have essentially tripled our viewership. It means the world that you guys came out and watched the video and just supported us in the way you did. We are going to be bringing out a couple of surprises as a thank you for everything you've done. We're trying to figure it out. This happened a lot faster than we ever expected, but thank you so much. It means the world to us, and we will do what we can to make it worth your while. Thank you, guys. Watch wrestling, watch Impact, and AEW Grand Slam was amazing.
Yep, I plugged the gym pack for you, Zone. Don't worry. Yeah, honestly, like you said, we tripled our subscribers in pretty much 24 hours than more than we had over the past year. So thank all of you for joining us here at the Market Down Podcast. Hey, be sure to check us out on all of our social media stuff too: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a TikTok. Danny will get me that link at some point. And yeah, honestly, if you want to go see a surprise that you missed for the 100 subscribers, go back like 2 weeks and check out me and James do our live Dynamite recap. His beard was pink, which is why he's got the goofy shave right now. That he's got to do Bob's Burgers in a couple weeks, but
what's goofy about a mustache? Yeah,
no, it's just you got the mustache and the beard came back in.
No,
and there's like a hint of red and creeping in there still. I'm kidding. Anyway, look, thank you everybody so much for watching. I know this is a bit of a goofy episode with us doing, segments across a couple of days, but hey, timing dictated it. But thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you here next time on the Market Down Podcast. Have a good one, everyone.